Hello guys, I am here with Ingrid Zerafa from Farmers Deli, Malta, and we are going to focus about the organic produce and how can we identify the organic produce, and eventually we speak in detail about and going around that subject. So before we begin answering the questions, can you please tell us, Ingrid, what brought you to the organic and agriculture industry?
Okay, so I think, as is very usual in life, one thing's lead to the other. I am a journalist by profession, and I did also in after journalism and then as well in parallel, I did communications, including government communications on the environment. The two combined means that in my veins, I already had blood running, searching for the truth, searching for traceability, the best.
Mm-hmm.
We're big foodies in family, so we love our food and we love the different tastes, different cuisines. And of course, when I did government communications for the environment, I went a lot into policy, also into lobbying, from agriculture to produce to farmers to fishing to waste and its management. So these have always been my pet subjects. Also in my PR years, I looked after the CSR programs of big companies, corporate social responsibility, and I am very grateful to have lived in the age of awareness about the environment. So again, CSR programs dealt with the environment a lot already, even in my days, and a few decades now have passed.
Yeah.
So that is a pet subject for me. Then I met my partner, Franco. He is Sicilian, and he wanted to move to Malta. But he said, obviously, I need to create something for myself. I can't just move to a new country. And it was at a time when I was okay. So there's another bracket which I need to open.
Yeah.
I used to buy in Gozo from very dear farmers. Farmers have always been very dear to me. So I used to get very excited driving in Gozo, find this beautiful basket of fresh produce, until one day I was shocked. I remember I witnessed them spraying the crop, and it shocked me.
Mm-hmm.
It shocked me because of what they were wearing. I was not aware. I knew that the crop can be sprayed, but I was not fully conscious of what it entailed. So that opened my eyes even further, and that is when I started my search for organic.
Mm-hmm.
And during those days, it was quite a bit of a struggle, because you would find the lettuce in the south, a beetroot in the north, eggs in another area. So you get the gist. Different supermarkets to get a few different items.
Mm-hmm.
This was at least 15 years ago. So anyway, when this came up between us, I had the ambition of a project, to make organic accessible under one roof. Franco had the right connections in Sicily, because he knew a very reputable network of producers and farmers in Sicily, and that is where we learned the ropes. of how it's done, why it's done, the policy, the certification, the traceability, the pricing policy. They had a platform which was already ready-made and off the shelf, so to speak. So that was our learning curve. And then once you start operating, you understand what, because it was a platform mainly made in Sicily. If I don't say for Sicily, because it was not exclusively for Sicily, but it was then mainly for otherwise outside Sicily countries in the north. But then we start understanding your market. So we felt the need to basically have a platform tailor-made with the products which our market asks for. Because there was a certain demand which Sicily alone does not fulfill. And it's useless to say, as much as we like the tagline, regional, seasonal, local, 0 kilometer, all beautiful words and concepts, when you deal with the market is still not ready to live without bananas. The market is still not ready to accept that when tomatoes are not in season, there are other items, other fresh produce in season, which you can use. Today we have become extremely recipe and concept driven. And nature was not meant to be like that. That is very man-made, that basically we have created a demand to create a supply. While we as natural human beings, we are engineered, we are designed to basically live on supply. But it's, again, you have to be practical, because this is not an easy industry. It is a very challenging sector, because it's true that it is expensive, not cheap, because food is not cheap. Food was never meant to be cheap, because labor cannot be paid cheaply, because it is very hard work, and that is very difficult labor, very technical, very specialized. And unfortunately, the farmer, I think, is the least recognized, or among the least recognized in the human race, which is a pity, because a farmer provides, I think only the farmer actually provides exclusively what we need to survive, because food is actually our medicine.
But I love that idea of food as medicine, right?
But that is all we need. Nature has provided us with everything. And even if you look into the medicine, yes, there are formulae, there are a lot of research, a lot of science, but the components have always been found in nature, and then man has optimized the combination, so to speak.
If I may share my experience, why I am here with you, okay? Thank you. I know there is more, Ingrid, but we need to cut a bit short. I'm sharing my experience why I am here with you discussing organic produce. So to make it short, my story began 20 years ago, or 23, because I'm 36 now. I began suffering from digestive problems at 13 years old. I used to never eat vegetables because my mother never cooked them like I wish she would. It was like boiled, and eventually they were not tasty. So I always was like potatoes and meat, potatoes, fish, potatoes, chicken, whatever. And it was just that, potatoes and whatever. And eventually I got diagnosed with liver condition. They said it's genetically, but I believe this is coming from also nutritional base. And till today, I'm still suffering from this liver condition that it seems I cannot solve completely. So throughout these 23 years, I spent my life going from a doctor to a professor to a herbalist or a naturopath, and eventually doing my own research on supplements, trying all types of herbs. And today I am more into essential oils. I am stuck there now because I believe that essential oils are the primary medicine of the plant, excluding the fibers and the vitamins and the minerals. The oils that are in the plant, whatever is the plant, is the medicine. So I am here with you to discover this idea because I am deeply connected with plants today because I believe they are the healing therapy for me. Maybe they are not the definitive therapy because whatever is damaged, it's not that easy to recover. So we are here to help the people to prevent disease as well. So hopefully, if they decide to go organic, if they are not already into that, they go. So prevention is better than cure, right? So we are here to bring awareness and consciousness that all the diseases begin from what we consume, whether it's visible or invisible. And we are speaking about the visible source now, okay? The organic produce. So are you ready to begin and ask you some questions?
Shoot.
Okay. So what is organic certified produce according to you?
Well, certified produce is not according to me. It is, there are a set of rules that govern organic, which is important because in this day and age, you literally find everything. And I think it is important that the consumer knows exactly what they are consuming, ingesting in their body. Where does it come from? Its authenticity. So certification is basically a certificate that gives you all this information. So basically, when you are buying certified organic produce, it means that every item comes with traceability, which means that you know the producer, what it is coming from, and that is accountability. So that that is the famous traceability, that is the famous, tracing the lot. That in itself means that the producer has been certified by a controlling body wherever they are in the world, whether it's in Malta or abroad, but there are a number of regulations that need to be followed. Purification of the land, not using any chemicals, any pesticides, certain distance from conventional produce, so on and so forth. That is the certification. What is very important as well, because words come in handy because they're easy, but they do not always reflect the truth. Organic does not mean natural, and natural does not mean organic. Organic is mainly, one, in its conventional form, organic produce is following the rules of the natural process of nature. But because man has done everything to that natural process, now it has to be certified to be
Yeah.
to be proven, unless, of course, you know a farmer and you know that the farmer doesn't treat the soil with chemicals, with anything. Okay, but in the absence of you knowing who the farmer is and the techniques and methods the farmer uses on his land, then you need a certification, especially for items which come from abroad where you don't personally know the farmer. So we need something to rely on. So it is basically there is a mix-up in jargon because we put a number of words in the same basket: organic, natural, local. I mean, these three things, they refer to three different things. Being local does not necessarily mean organic because not all local farmers do not use pesticides, but we have farmers in Malta who either do not use pesticides but they are not certified, and even more than that, farmers in Malta who follow the organic methods and they are certified to be organic.
Can you tell me more about the three things? So if I have an apple, there should be a sticker, right? And I can
The
follow it.
sticker may not necessarily be. You don't have all the information on the apple. Not every apple comes with a sticker organic, and most of the produce does not come with a sticker. But we, as for example, traders of organic, and we are certified by the MCCAA, but the MCCAA on a regular basis asks us to provide all the certificates of the suppliers and producers we deal with, both locally and abroad. Now, to give you an idea of how produce travels from abroad, every single item comes with a certificate. Like you and me to go to Italy, we need our ID card, and at the border they know who we are, where we come from. There is a certain amount of information about us. The produce is the same. So basically, when it arrives, the box itself has a certification. Not only the box, the documents of the produce, they have all the information it needs. So basically, if you buy an apple and this, for some reason or in some way, results that it is not really organic, it is traced down to the farmer who produced it. So basically, there are not numbers. It's a very technical, and every now and again, we need to provide these documents that what we are trading really is the original thing.
Yeah, and this goes to the second question. How can we identify and confirm that the produce is actually organic?
You need to trust who you are dealing with. Because I am explaining a process. Now, if you have to follow the process for every item you eat, you become a data collector, not a consumer of organic. So basically, if you are my customer, it is because you trust me that I am following all the procedures, that I am sourcing locally from people who are trusted, from people who are being monitored by the authorities, and importing from suppliers, producers who are following the same procedures, because the certificates are issued based on a number of procedures which basically a producer has to follow.
And do you believe there will be like organic certified farmers who mix this up? Like there is like a bunch of apples which are not organic and the rest are all organic. Could it happen?
Alex, can it happen? Men, since men existed, men has always corrupted the system.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to tell you, no, it cannot be. Because wherever there is men, there is a possibility
Mhm.
of whatever the person comes up with.
Mhm.
That is why I say, yes, you can base yourself on the certificates, all well and good.
Mhm.
But when you buy an apple, are you going to ask your supermarket, your grocer, your farmer, all the certificates of the produce? No,
Mhm.
practically that is impossible.
Mhm.
That is why I say how important it is to actually know your supplier. This is
Mhm.
something that we have lost, for example, in supermarkets. I am not saying that supermarkets do not follow the procedures. Of course, I would like to, I hope, and I would like to believe totally that they follow the procedures. But because of their vastness, it is an immense operation,
Mhm.
it's very impersonal. So you basically there you have to trust a brand, you have to trust an operation. When you deal with um, a small grocery shop, you then know the integrity, you know more about the person in that small operation. You have a little bit more knowledge, you have more first-hand information about how careful they are to source. For example, Farmers Deli is extremely small, so we know most of our customers by name. We know their diet, we know their likes and dislikes. This is a personal service which used to always be catered for example, by the small grocery shops in the villages. Of course, a supermarket cannot follow you in the same manner, you know but then that is where the original idea of organic beyond certification has been lost. And when before I told you not organic is not necessarily natural, and not all natural is necessarily organic,
Mhm.
because in the food chain there are a lot of items with an organic certification, which are, however, highly processed because they follow the procedures of not
Yeah.
using chemicals, but it's highly processed anyway. Do I
Yeah.
agree with that? No, but it still carries the certification.
Yeah. I want to speak about the trust because you said about the trust, and I see that your produce come from different places in Europe, right? Whether it's like Spain or Italy or I don't know which else. So I believe you don't go directly to the farmer and you get trust directly, but through there is like a medium of people that you trust them, but and they trust them. How this trust works?
No, trust, as abstract as it may be, in today's world, trust is based on um, also on documentation.
Mhm.
So in Malta, we know that we deal with a number of farmers who are certified by the MCCAA. They have the certificate, and that means that they follow the procedures, and the MCCAA issues a certification. Abroad is the same thing. The farmer needs to apply for certification. A
Mhm.
number of monitoring takes
Mhm.
place, analysis of the crop, procedures, and
Mhm.
so on and so forth. They have a certification, and
Yeah.
that produce travels with
Mhm.
that certification. But you mentioned something else, the possibility of mixing a certified apple with a non-certified apple. That is where the trust comes, because that is something that you need to trust your supplier not to do,
Mhm.
because not every single piece of item has a certification when you actually buy it. You buy from us, you get a box. The box comes with a guarantee, with a certificate, which says that we are certified, that we are doing our homework. Which is basically, if you ask me, I am obliged to give you all the information that you need. I am obliged because I hold the data for you. If you need to tell me, if you tell me, listen, my daughter ate an apple and it resulted that it's not organic. I need to give you all the data about that apple. And then that allows the authorities to do their homework, their work, to see why that apple.
The problem is that as a consumer who have no experience in the agricultural business, they don't recognize between a non-organic and an organic apple. So eventually the objections usually doesn't happen. And there is also something that came to my mind, that there are companies that, let's say we stay on apples, I think they did Gala, I'm not sure. Example, Gala, I believe it's a massive company, and they have apples who are organic and non-organic.
No, because Gala is not a company. Gala is an apple variety.
Okay.
So the Gala apples can be produced organically, which means without any chemicals, any pesticides, or else in the conventional way, where farmers are allowed to spray the trees basically to have a higher yield, to have less damage.
So eventually the Gala, when we say Gala is something that it's how can we define like the name Gala? Because I thought it was like a brand name or
no. Gala is simply Gala is simply, there are a number. An apple is not just an apple. An apple, there is the Gala apple, there is the Elster apple, there are a golden delicious apple, a red delicious apple. These are all apple varieties. It's not a brand name. A brand name is, for example, Pink Lady is a bit of a brand. Pink Lady is a selection of apples. Basically, it elevates, or it should, or it is meant, or it is believed that a Pink Lady status is of an apple of a higher standard. In fact, the Pink Lady apples are actually quite expensive, whether they are organic or conventional. Mind you, even in conventional farming, there are procedures to be followed, because when they are spraying pesticides, that is poison, and there is a minimum or a maximum of spray allowed, and also when they spray, a time frame before which they cannot, for example, harvest the crop, because they need to give it enough time, for that whatever. So, in theory, everything is regulated, but really and truly, you have to look for, if there isn't a personal relationship with the place, the shop where you buy from, then you look for the certificate, because that is your guarantee. Better still, when you actually shop from people you can trust. So the small realities in the villages, we have the grocery shop, the small realities. In larger, for example, that is the reason why in supermarkets, organic produce is all wrapped up in plastic, because to for the supermarkets to actually avoid consumers themselves mixing the produce, they are packaging organic produce in plastic. It is said and believed so that it is not contaminated. I would like to see it the other way around, because basically organic produce should not be contaminated by an item which has been sprayed. But anyway, that is something else.
Yeah. Okay. And it's coming a new question before I pass for the other. Since you import, and I believe mostly are imports, right? Is it right that you?
No, whatever we found local, the first priority we give is the local.
Okay.
Because as I said, the farmer is, they need all the support. It is not easy to grow organically. Like we have competition, they have competition as well. So
yeah,
when they have to compete with a conventional farmer, they have probably less than 1/4 of the yield. They have much more damage. They have a lot of limitations.
So first you check the network of farmers, organic farmers in Malta, and then once you see that there is not enough, you import from other places in Europe, right?
Yes, mainly from Italy, Italy and France and Spain.
And when you consider it's organic, and when it's important, it's cut from days or maybe even weeks before. I don't know how it goes when there is the import. How it goes? How many days from the cutting of the fruit or the vegetable, if it's coming from Spain, example. If you bring something from Spain, how much time in days it needs to
logistically come? Yes, logistically there is a time frame. I mean, this is produce which travels on land, and by sea. And the time frames are not always the same, because obviously this is a very fast moving sector, even because it doesn't give you that much time. Yeah. So once it is in the interest of everyone in the food chain to basically harvest and run with the produce, and it's literally a run, which is what makes it also quite tiring, because this is not something that we say, I don't feel like doing it today, I'll postpone this for tomorrow. You have casualties all the time. It is a struggle against time, but this is not because it's organic. This is the rhythm that we have created, I mean, since trading started. I think bananas, whether they are organic or conventional, but they come mainly from South America or Africa. That doesn't really matter whether they're organic or conventional. They come through the same journey. The question there is the choice of the consumer, because as I told you, we have the responsibility of educating people, and mine is not just a theory. As we said before, our bodies are designed to be able to live and get nourished from what the place, or at least the region, provides. So you and me technically should not rely on a banana. We should not need a banana. We do not need a banana.
Because we live in Malta, right?
Because it is not inherent, it's not indigenous, it's not inherent to our region.
Yeah, and if when we speak about indigenous in Malta, especially now that we are focusing on construction, these trees are expiring. You know, they are we are growing in citizens, but eventually we are lacking in the nutrition, which it doesn't make sense. It's like an inverse proportion. And of course, we are now sustained by importing. And one day I was speaking with a farmer, and he said to me, in order to really appreciate a strawberry, you need to be the person who picks it up and it's hot from the sun, and you eat it directly after eating. You will never taste a strawberry like that.
We have lost all this.
You
And
know?
it is very unfortunate for our children, you know, to have lost that touch, that contact, that knowledge, that appreciation, you know, because it has become very easy. You feel like something, you go to the supermarket, you find a number of varieties, you don't really care where it comes from, at what price,
Yeah.
what farmers got paid for that, you know. Yes, and then you
Yeah.
even the price of food, that is another fallacy. We say that organic is expensive.
Mhm.
It is the other way around. We should question, why is food, certain food, so cheap? Because when you understand the trouble, the time, the pain of growing produce, a carrot, which is one of the cheapest items, okay, but when you consider the length of time, when you consider everything, food is not cheap.
Yeah.
So when you are buying cheap food, the question is, question yourself, why is this cheap? What am I eating?
Yeah.
Because
And
if it is cheap, there have been a lot of shortcuts in the food chain.
yeah,
From the production,
yeah.
I mean, we have come to a point that garlic is plastic and then it's cheap. But then you say, because organic is expensive. Organic, of course, it's expensive. But why are we still buying into the idea of cheap food?
Yeah.
Cheap is the only thing. First of all, it is so laborious and so difficult to grow food. It is so difficult, you know? So that is the question. Why? That is the question.
And
What are you eating?
when we invest in cheap products, we invest in cheap processes, and it's like demand and supply, right? So if we demand a cheaper value, then eventually it becomes a cheaper quality. So I believe the people have money, but they are spreading their financial energy in other things that maybe they don't need. So I am not here to judge whatever it is, but I believe that if we focus in that energy that gives us life, because vegetables, fruits are energies, they are like batteries, right? Once we cut them from the mother tree, their battery will begin to discharge. So once you get that apple, if you want to stay on that apple, once you cut it, it's like 100% going down. And once you eat it, you are getting 60%, maybe 50%. I don't know, depends until it gets rotten. So this is something that if you go in our ancestor time, when they saw a tree full of apples, they didn't cut all the apples. They cut one, they cut two, and they leave the rest until maybe they fought, and then they pick. But eventually, even if you consider the primates and the apes, they don't eat all the produce. They leave it there, and eventually they move accordingly. So we are intelligent beings that we want everything at once, and the demand is so high because the population is also so high. We are mass producing, and it's like we are creating a disease in our system ourselves. But let's go to the other,
So
because there
what
is,
I would like to
yeah,
add
yeah,
to this, and we
yeah,
close this chapter,
yes.
of course we say organic is expensive. And then you invest in pay for 2 and get 3. Fine. What we don't factor in that price is then the price we pay, not only through our health and the pain that comes obviously with disease, but what we pay in professional fees, but for doctors, consultants, hospitals, clinics, checkups, medicine, treatment,
Yes.
and I say no more.
And
So
probably this
the
is,
shortcut at some point
mhm,
it catches up with you.
yes, 100% agree.
But this is again the challenge in the thinking, in the short-sightedness of comparing prices
And some people or
at face value.
organizations are, they know this and they are taking advantage of this mentality, like the pharmaceutical companies, which eventually they are mass producing medicines, so-called medicines, uh, to release ourselves or control the symptoms that we have, and eventually they make money from us, from our disabled mentality. So how are you going to invest that energy? I prefer it with food instead. So I think it's obvious, but not many people say it like that.
It's a choice, that is why information, and this is our duty at the end of the day.
Yeah.
This is the age we live in. But we should be very grateful because we are also very lucky that we have all this knowledge now. That yes, we can continue to blame the big pharma, fine. But I also have a choice in what I consume. And it's not true that now the information is not available because we know the pros and the cons of everything, of street food, of fast food, of processed, of raw. So the information is there. Then it is our choice, really, how much we buy into the marketing and the branding.
Yes, yes. And it is our choice in a way, but then there is the traditions, our parents,
Of course.
the people, if you go to a restaurant and I want to eat a plant-based plate, well, most of them they don't have. So if
No,
or
I think there's even worse, Alex. There's even worse. It is a difficult time, on the other hand, that we have all the information. We are not meant, I mean, I am not a qualified doctor, so I don't have the knowledge of a doctor. But if I go to look for information, then I know a lot of people, friends of mine, family, and we are faced with the dilemma when you have to make choices, you know, because the medical profession does not always believe how far natural remedies can take you, and you do not, and you don't have, and then you go with a heavy heart to consume what is being prescribed for you. These are very difficult decisions because this is not always a case of cutting your finger. What do you do with your finger? Do you throw penicillin like they used to do in my days? As soon as you had a small cut, boom, you powder penicillin. You know, that is people are dealing with cancer decisions. People are dealing with very serious decisions, which could mean life or death, whether to take chemo or not.
I deeply studied herbal medicine, and I still learning a lot. I don't want to go deep because I can go for hours if you want, and I love it. But the idea was to bring the first series episode as a general public rule. But I just want to mention this, where me as a herbalist and an essential oil expert, I am pushed to say I am using alternative medicine. That is not true. Alternative medicine is the pharmaceutical, because the primary medicine is God's nature. So whatever is done in the lab, it began in the soil. So that is the primary, the soil, and the secondary, which we can call it the alternative, is the farmer. And that is it. So whatever they say, they twisted that, and we believe that from our parents. And now it's we are revealing the reality that our ancestors used. So before in the Egyptians, in the Greeks, in the Chinese, in the Indians, they use that before whatever laboratory began. So this idea of the concept of complementary, integrative, alternative medicine doesn't exist, but it's twisted. But we can make a full detail on that whenever you want. I am ready for it. So next, and how can we identify? Okay. So do you believe a field in Malta be defined as 100% certified organic?
This is a very frequently asked question.
Yes.
There is an element of truth that the island is small, that the parameters are actually different because we don't have the land. How can you tell a local farmer that to be certified organic, he needs to be a number of kilometers away from the next farm? That would mean that who is in Chirkewa to be certified organic for the rest of Malta needs to be organic. So, but the parameters, and there is, so yes, the parameters differ and they are adjusted,
But they are adjusted to complement a certification, or
because
is it
otherwise,
is it true organic? Is it true organic or not?
is it true organic? It is certified organic, but
Yes.
we cannot have the same distances as Germany does because we don't have that kind of land.
Of course.
So you either have, but what I can tell you is this. Of course, there is an element of truth about the risk that the wind of the next farm might come. In reality, when the CCAA take the analysis, they check. And obviously, if they certify the farm to be organic, it also means that in the analysis that they carry out, there are no traces of pesticides or chemicals.
How frequent they test, analyze?
That is up to, I'm not into that kind of technicality, even because we don't have the farms. But I think, there are the regular checks, there are the spot checks.
So let's say every month. Is it every month, example?
No, I don't think it is every month, but I stand to be corrected, and that is something that I would be jumping the gun if I had to answer you, because I'm not into because I'm not a farmer myself. We don't have the farms ourselves, so I think that's something to be checked with the MCCA.
Because you said about the wind and cross contamination. The wind changes every day, right?
That is why, but that is what people think, and possibly there is an element of truth. The thing is that there is definitely a difference between a farmer who does not treat the land and the crop and the farmer who treats both the land and the crop.
Of course. Yeah. And I can assure you, because when you deliver me certain produce, these are filled with the inhabitants that there are in there.
Yes.
If there were
Come with the whole
eventually,
family.
that is
Yes.
that is the most certified for me organic nature, because eventually the insects are the actual test.
Yes.
So, but if there aren't, I cannot say they are not organic, neither, right? So it cannot happen every time that I bring cauliflower or broccoli and I don't see any caterpillars. It means this is not organic, right?
No, because it is also a question of time, a question of practices on the farm. A practice of time, what does it mean? Because some of the crops, some of the farmers have the time to wash it, others not. You know, practices. This is practice. This is time. This is even the way the crop is organized. The produce is organized in boxes. You know,
Yes.
the
Wow.
standards are different. Again, that is why it is not a straightforward answer. But I wouldn't be then. I wouldn't brush it that just because Malta is small and the distances do not allow, then crop in Malta cannot be organic. No, that is not true. You know, that is really not true, because if the analysis themselves, they prove that, you know, that the produce does not contain an element, traces of pesticides or chemicals.
So I have a question on my mind now. So if you want the best produce ever, and you know Malta is cannot be 100% due to cross contamination and how is eventually distributed. But if you decide to choose, what produce would be the best? The one that is in Malta, so you cut it right away, but it could be cross contaminated, or maybe from another country, maybe even in Italy, that you are sure there is no cross contamination, but there is the delivery time.
Now, I personally, this is a matter of choice. But you are asking me. So before, this is how you started.
Yes.
When we had to make a choice, basically to make this a viable operation, then you have to follow the rules of your market. And the rules of the market, the consumers are not ready to give up apples, pears, bananas, because they are not so abundant in the region. No matter what we say, we are not there. Not Malta, I think nowhere else. Okay? And that is a choice that we had to make. That basically our offer cannot be just 0 kilometer based on the number of few farmers who we collaborate with locally, because that doesn't make it feasible. Yeah. That is what used to send me hunting for different things everywhere else. Okay, so we had to make that decision. Our responsibility is to give the right information so that you, as Alex consumer, you can actually make up your mind. If you don't care about what we say, and your choice is because you love bananas, even because they are actually probably the cheapest fruit available, then we can say why it is the cheapest fruit available. You have to make the choice. As long as you know, as long as we give you the information, and as long as you know there is this knowledge of what is in season, of what is in the region. I personally I do not cook. I'm not telling you that at the moment I don't eat tomatoes, but for example, these weeks we have tomatoes from Malta. Should they be in season? Not really, because they obviously grown on organic farm, certified from the founders of organic farming in Malta. So the people I trust most. The taste is still completely different, very nice, very tasty. Of course, they grow them in the tunnels or whatever they call them, because this is not summer, but if when I make choices, I personally, for my own consumption, I prefer the freshest, the closest, even because if not for anything, it is also for sustainability and all the nice words, which are very true and noble, but also it is about the taste.
Can I suggest you as a client of yours, okay? And I see your beautiful website. And one of the things that I love is the organization, how it is, and there is everything in one place. So if you make like a tab, local vegetables and foreign vegetables, example, and including fruits and
No, by law, and every single thing is itemized. So basically, we can make it even more visible. It is something that I have been thinking about, but basically, on every item, so you can check, you are in front of a computer now, but every item has a country of origin.
yes.
So in the description, there is the country of origin, and that is by law.
And if there is a country of origin, like there is Malta, right?
Exactly.
Okay, good, great.
So every single item, and you need that kind of information.
So can I share your website not just now for the people?
With pleasure.
So I'm going to share. So you go eventually farmers Deli. Okay.
farmersdelimalta.com.
farmersdelimalta.com, and eventually there is here, and my preference is always the vegetables first. And we can see if we can click example here, cabbage.
Exactly.
There is country of origin here, France, right?
Exactly.
Wow, beautiful. And you know what? I work in nutrition as well with people who suffer from digestive problems. And I use your website because it's so organized for people to understand what vegetables they are and what fruits they can consume. It is something that your organization is also attracts the clients to buy and have this trust as well. Wow, beautiful. And so,
thank you.
Mela, I think, are you hearing me okay?
Sorry?
Mela, because sometimes, hello?
I can hear you. I can't see you properly, but I can hear you.
Let's see, maybe the camera just.
There you are again.
Okay. So, next, why government schemes such as the school fruit and vegetable scheme do not promote organic produce as part of the scheme?
What is it? Can you please repeat? Blocked.
So there is a scheme. I can read it to you. I just been sent by the Ministry for Education. So I'm reading it in English. Okay. So dear parents, once again, the school scheme shall supply 2022 and 23 pupils with a portion of fresh fruit and vegetables. Deliveries shall commence from the second week of February, and pupils shall receive a free portion per week. This scheme is financed by the government of Malta thus enabling all students to receive one portion per week, as well as their teachers and their educators, to encourage our children to eat more fruit and vegetables and help them adopt a healthier lifestyle. The aim of the scheme is to encourage children to develop a positive attitude towards fruit and vegetables, while this should encourage children to adopt a healthier lifestyle. The portion of fruit and vegetables intends to complement, not replace, the food and drinks given to the children by their parents. Children shall be encouraged to eat more fruit and vegetables and given the opportunity to experience new tastes. So here, there is nothing mentioned. You need to just fill in this form, and eventually you will have the portion of produce every week. So it doesn't mention that this is organic or not, and I am assuming it is not. So what do you think about this?
I, as a person, I don't think I am either optimistic or pessimistic, but I am very and we have seen schemes like this come and go, and so far they all failed. And I really wish, for the sake of the money, for the sake of our children, the money spent, the efforts, and basically the reasoning behind such an initiative. Because as an initiative, it's a great initiative. I think it's botched, because I think if we would like our children to appreciate food, they need much more than a portion provided freely over and above. I don't think it is the way to introduce them to taste. I would like to know how these portions are going to reach children, because providing fresh fruit and veg to children, to roll out such an operation, and this will bring us back to your questions before, the amount of preparation to roll it out on a certain day to all schools is mega, with the result that, unfortunately, at least in the past, fruit got discolored. Summer is even worse, because summer fruit is even more
delicate.
Yes, and the weather is very cruel to the produce. So I wonder what kind of packaging is going to be used, how much packaging are we to create a portion, how much packaging we are going to generate. So to be honest, I have no knowledge about this, so I don't want to speculate. I hope that the portion would actually be a fruit which children get to choose, and if not wash themselves, because now we have become allergic to even wash fruit. We want fruit which is easy to peel and not dirty our hands. And an orange usually does not qualify, because an orange is a bit messy, and then your hands smell, and we don't want that anymore.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it hurts me so much, it disappoints me so much, that I refuse to get into these discussions, because this is how we make our children appreciate fruit. If we, in the first place, allow them to experience fresh fruit, allow them to get dirty, to peel the fruit, and experiment with it. This is, we run periodically, we run initiatives with children, and children are very ready to discover tastes, to experiment with food, to come up with their own ideas. So the problem are not the children, but but we have to be smart if we really want to introduce.
I think the government, when there is a scheme like this, actually is not supporting the children, but there is something supporting a system that is failing, like the agricultural. So
This is a panic. This is, I call these panic schemes, you know,
so
that we need to do something because our children are obese, because in Europe they were doing this, possibly there will be funds.
but
I'm sure there are.
I think it's more from what I believe. Because I am ready to even speak to someone in the education why this is happening, but let's go on what we know. But I believe that there are so many farmers that are claiming that they are throwing away many produce. So instead of throwing them away, we give them. So maybe they are funded by the government themselves, and instead of throwing them away, they give them on a weekly basis to the children and then to the parents. So maybe like that, there is a financial energy going around and supporting the farming system. Could be as well. But as you said, if we really want the children to be more into vegetables and fruits, they need to really get dirty, and literally, if they need to cut them directly by themselves. So this is something that I remember that there was the one in Lua. What was the name? What is the name of there's an organization of governmental. I don't remember the name, but eventually I remember that we used to go there and eventually had some activities, just few, and we went there and get dirty. So, but yes, I will fill in the form and maybe we'll see what will happen, but let's not go so much deep.
Yes, I hope so too, for the sake of everyone involved.
Yeah, hopefully you are involved too, right?
No, we are not. No, we are not.
That is a problem. Why you are not? Why there's not a call for everyone, or there are
possibly there could have been a call. I don't know how. Possibly, I have no idea. I have no idea. Let's just stop at saying that I really hope, for the sake of everyone, that this time, because these schemes have been with us, they've been tried and tested before, and I hope that lessons have been learned. Lessons about how we really should communicate fruit and veg to the children, how willing we are, how they are rolled out, because it's a challenge. You know, it's not that easy, especially when there is food preparation and the packaging that this is going to generate. Because let's face it, we continue to speak about climate change, we continue to speak about waste, but it is always somebody else's problem. I don't know, we don't seem to want to tackle it when it comes to making choices for ourselves.
So if example, you decide to contact, because this is coming from ARPA, you know, the Agriculture and Rural Payments Agency. And if you decide to contact ARPA as a farmer that eventually deliver and supply, and tell them, you know, I wish to be part of this scheme as one of the suppliers.
I mean, knowing how these things work. Once you have received the communication, I would imagine that the scheme is already.
Yeah, but why it's not called? You are not called to be part of it. Why you are knowing?
This is something I don't know, but to be fair, these could be. I mean, I don't look out for these initiatives, to be honest. As in, they could have been in a government gazette that the government would have called for expressions of interest.
Okay.
I have no idea. I don't know. I knew that something like this was going to be launched because somebody had contacted me for some ideas, and I gave my 2 pennies worth of knowledge about it. Now that it seems to be out, so I don't want to say no, we haven't been contacted, because usually I don't know what is usual and what is not, but I didn't come across this call for expression of interest. Let's put it that way.
And if you would you be part of it?
Of course I would.
Would you accept?
Of course I would.
Okay.
Of course I would. And as I told you, we have run initiatives, usually on a small scale, like with a school or two, but we have done a lot of initiatives. And the initiatives that we've done included the Ta'ali National Park, where we took children to show them the indigenous plants in Malta, because that's what they do at Ta'ali. The Maltese goat, we have given them seeds to plant and to see them grow, and how much it takes, and looking after the seed and the plant until it becomes a vegetable for them. This is how then children, and allowing them to sit in the park and give them a choice, because children should have a choice, because we are all entitled to prefer an orange over a lemon, or vice versa, you know. So you need to give children a choice, so that when they make a choice, they know, they can actually tell you why they prefer a lemon and not a or an orange and not a.
I think this is something coming from the educational system. The education is more focusing on technology and
On consumption.
and physics and whatever other.
On consumption.
Yeah, and eventually that's why people are more interested in other things that I see that sometimes they are not exactly our priority over what is actually the priority. So if there is more like a general subject, you know, and you need to pass from it. If don't, you cannot pass from the next year. That you need to know the vegetables, how they are grown, and this has to be a general subject, which is not. So, and actually they maybe don't even focus so much on during the year. So, yes, the education system has to.
I very much fear, Alex, that these are initiatives to tick political boxes. That when it comes, you have an obesity problem. What are you doing about it? And we tick the box that we have an initiative that we roll out an X amount of, and then we come up with the tons of fruit and veg every year. We deliver to the schools, and it is fine. This is financed by so and so, blah, blah, blah. Now, let's face it. If my daughter refuses, or I don't introduce my daughter to an orange, do we really think that by giving an orange, I will not even go into the merit, because I don't know how the fruit is going to be presented. But once in a week, is it going to really convince my daughter to eat an orange, or to start liking an orange, or to understand the difference between a mandarin and a clementine, and why some prefer a clementine to a mandarin, and vice versa? No, I don't think so. And we leave it at that.
From my experience, because this is very sensitive on me, because I have 2 children, one of 4 and the other of 6 months. And when I began this idea of being into organic and plant-based, and my daughter began as like a vegetarian. She doesn't know what is meat. And the problem is this, that once she passed a certain age, And the education system itself introduced things like
Chicken nuggets.
croissants during the because there is the breakfast, and because my wife needed to go to work, and they go like preschool, and they give them processed foods. And when she decided to consume them, she was her body was then deciding to go on the process instead of the natural. So instead of choosing strawberry, it decided to choose a chocolate. And that is another story that I really want to document, which I don't know what will happen if I really do what I have in my mind, because this idea that whenever you go in a place that is like a supermarket, you go and you find this processed foods in your face, in the beginning and at the end where the counter is. This is disrespectful, especially for people who really want to cut short these things. They have an addiction maybe, and they cannot work out their minds to stay away. No, there is always this publicity, whether it's real on the place and or on the screen. There is always this big marketing about eat this food, and that is not good. It doesn't make sense to put vegetables on the back and chocolates in the front. This has to be on the other way around. It's the same concept of the pharmaceutical and the alternative medicine.
This place in supermarket is actually a science in itself.
Yes.
But of course, it is studied to go exactly the opposite of what you're saying,
Yeah.
because it is all about marketing. It is all about consumerism. It is all about making these spontaneous, what do we call it? There's a word, not spontaneous, instant buying, spontaneous buying. It's, you know,
Yeah.
it's actually a science. It's like in the same way we study.
Actually, there is the science of the. I studied the science of colors, and if you see chocolates, example, the packaging is full of colors. Whether it's purple, it's glowing, they are like diamonds. And for the mind, it's very attractive. And eventually people buy them. They buy them not just for the taste, the addiction of the sugars, but there is also the packaging. They are attractive. So they bring in your face these glowing diamonds in front in every market. And that is wrong, and this has to change. But let's go on the next question. So do you feel that the public food supply chains, such as restaurants and fast foods, should mention whether the produce is pesticide-free, similar to that of gluten and lactose-free notices?
Of course. Of course. Of course.
And this is important, because
and a lot of and that is quite a sensitive. I mean, that is when we started discussing certification and organic in the beginning. Then when it comes to restaurants, it becomes even trickier, because sometimes because of one ingredient which is organic, then you have
a mix-up.
Then it becomes an organic kitchen.
Yeah.
But let's leave that. Yes, I think we need, at the moment, there is a lot of information. We live in the age of information, but we are fed the wrong information. And then we're missing the information that we need.
So let's take, for example, I go in a restaurant and I want to select a salad. And of course, there is just the ingredients and whatever they call the name sometimes. And I asked the waiter, is this salad organic or not? From my perspective, the waiter will smile or even laugh at me if I ask that question. And these salads are on the high side, like they are getting more and more and more expensive. And they don't change the ingredients, or even sometimes they reduce. So imagine if they decide to use organic, which I don't think they use most of them, because of the price as well, because it's a business, right? And the people just want to be there and eat, not actually conscious of what they are eating. But eventually it's more about the portion size and the price. But then the quality, where is the quality? Which is organic. That is the quality. And I don't see it anywhere, this idea that, you know, this the price that you are paying for, this is for organic vegetables, you know? And do you believe that this should be implemented and consciously, like not just written, but truly given away as organic?
The restaurant business and the restaurant scene is quite complex. It's even more complex. And in defense of restaurants and catering establishments, first of all, I think that we have far, but far more catering eateries than we actually need. And that is when it starts to become unsustainable. Because again, when everyone is in a huge race to attract customers, usually that is not conducive to quality. And the restaurants or anything, eateries are complex. Why? Let's take your example of a salad. It looks simple. It looks that it requires little preparation. It looks like it shouldn't be the most expensive item on the menu. But you have to appreciate that in that salad, you are paying by default for the produce, for the waste generated, because to be served in time, remember that we want everything served within minutes. That requires a lot of preparation. Where there is preparation, there is waste, because not everything that you prepare is consumed. Mm-hmm. Let's not fool ourselves. That waste, somebody has to pay for it. And it's usually your salad. Mm-hmm. You know, because otherwise the restaurant, you'll find it closed the month after. Let's continue how the expenses on that salad. So you've got the product, you've got the waste, you've got the prep, you've got the chef, then somebody has to take your order, someone else brings it to your table and takes it back to the kitchen. It needs to be washed. All this, to do all this, you need utilities. See how many overheads there are. This is for just a salad. Okay? And once you are there, you expect to have the internet and the nice ambience and nice cutlery and nice porcelain and possibly a tablecloth or a disposable napkin. You see how many.
It seems that you were managing a restaurant yourself, right?
we managed a bistro for a good 3 years.
And why you stopped?
Where did it stop?
Why you stopped? Because I
Why
see
it stopped? For a number of circumstances, which were 80% of them were beyond our control,
Mhm.
but 20% also our unwillingness to carry on. Even because the industry now, again, like everything else you've mentioned, construction, but even the restaurant business is quite unsustainable, because I actually have we are in a situation that of our economy, that we have created such huge demand that now we are importing human capital.
Mhm.
I have nothing against them,
Yeah.
but first we get their bananas and we don't pay them the full price for those bananas. Forcing them to leave their country because they're not paid well in their country, to then bring them here
Out of their family.
to wash plates in the kitchen. I mean, without any disrespect. On the other, thank God that we have them, because we have these people in hospitals, in clinics, in restaurants, in our public transport. We have them everywhere because we have created such a huge economy that it requires a lot of human capital.
Mhm.
When you ask, and then we complain about how expensive a salad is. Yes, because that salad contains, did you count how many single portion expenses need to go in that salad?
And
So it's not the
eventually,
salad that is expensive. And then where do we cut the expense? On the produce.
and eventually,
On the quality of the produce.
is it worth it eventually? From what you say, that one of our let's say outings every weekend we go in a restaurant. Is it efficient for the total system, like a waste example? Is it worth it for the okay, there is the money, there's the economy, so eventually, but is it worth it to invest into this way?
No, I see it differently. I see that in life, because let's face it, we are not in the 19th century anymore. And we like the lifestyle that we have created. I think I like the word sustainability, because sustainability is about balance. I like to go to a restaurant where I eat food which I am unable to cook at home because I don't have the knowledge of a chef. A chef is a profession. Being a waiter is a profession. Being a kitchen porter is a profession. So I like to go to places where these professions are respected and glorified. What I have my serious reservations about is, do I need to go to these restaurants every day? But again, it's the balance. I think a restaurant, for us to meet, for us to have this conversation, do we need to go in a cafeteria where people have to come and take our order and make our coffee and bring the coffee and take the cup back to be washed and have a person to wash the cup? Can't we have something simpler? Can't we go like we used to do many times? I invite you, you invite me, and whatever is available, we share.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But since now we have grown into this habit that for us to meet, we need to go in a coffee shop, and we need to do it possibly 2-3 times a day, then a coffee can't be too expensive, because it's too expensive. But I don't care that it is convenient. I decide that it is convenient for me to take a coffee a day. But I don't realize how many expenses that operation generates. That is unsustainable, because we are here not talking about having a nice tea in a nice place with all the nice bits and pieces, or the restaurant where you go to actually discover the art of a talented chef who brings together and elevates the produce to another level, given a good service. No, everything is disposable. Everything has to be quick. Everything has. This is the. Uh,
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 uh, what I say is like we are in the era of being served, right?
no, I think unfortunately we have moved out of the era of service. Service is everything is disposable.
This
Everything is.
even people, right?
Yes, we use it's everything needs to be instant,
Uh,
everything needs to be quick.
and if you see the relationship how they go and even a married couple is a disposable relationship. Sometimes when I'm
Eh,
not comfortable anymore, we separate.
because everything is disposable, everything is unless there's a quick solution. You have a headache, you take paracetamol. You have any symptom, you have a solution. You don't feel like cooking, go on your mobile in 15 minutes, possibly you have a driver who we bring from the other side of the world, who then we understand how in precarious conditions most of them
But
have. If
yeah.
it's raining, that it's even worse for them. We don't care as long as we remain cozy in our pajamas. And do we stop and think what goes in that food? Do we stop and think who is bringing us? Do we stop and think that on top of the expenses that we've mentioned, okay, there is actually a commission, not poor people to the people who deliver, but for the platforms in
Yeah,
between.
yeah,
But we
uh,
don't care about any of this.
yes.
And allow me to say, we don't really care to develop a culture for good food. We are not really interested. We're very interested in the fancy. We are very interested in the status, but in the real value and quality of food. Um,
Maybe that's why what is marketed throughout our ages, right? The fancy think that we are the winners and we are better than others. We have the fancier car and the fancier material properties. But eventually, I think we are lacking of understanding and appreciating whatever we have. I just want to share with you this. I was eating one of your oranges, and when I was at work and I was like with music, I was in a break. And sometimes I love to meditate while I am eating the fruits. And when I was eating this orange, I got a vision. I was thirsty. I was like in Africa. I was thirsty, and I saw this orange tree. And I said, "Ah, finally! Now I'm not going to die. I am going to eat this orange, and this orange will give me life." And I was so much appreciating this orange that gave me life because I was thirsty. But today we are so overfed that we don't know what is hunger, what is thirst. So how can we appreciate what we have if we are always comfortable and sustained in a particular way? So sometimes what I believe is to experience poverty. And you don't need to be poor.
that would merit another, that would merit another very long session
Yes, but that is
because poverty is not a good thing. And whenever there was poverty in life, there was always a lot of suffering.
Mhm.
Um, but extremes, because poverty is really and truly an extreme. And extremes are never comfortable. But unfortunately, to beat poverty, we went to the other extreme of excess. Excess is not abundance. Excess is the reason why we are fed up and we cannot be grateful for anything, because we are fed up of what is available. We have too much. Today we don't, yes, you read the news, the papers, and you understand, unfortunately, that there are families who are not getting to the end of the month. But most of the time, we also listen to constant complaints. Oh, because I ate too much, because I put on weight, because of excess, because we have
Yeah.
stopped being choosy. We have stopped getting excited and looking forward to that something special, because nothing is special anymore.
And if you think about excess, if everybody understands their limits in the healthiest way, don't eat too much. Sometimes even eating organic, overeating organic, it doesn't make you healthier. It
Of
makes
course
you
not.
worse. So if
The
you
body really and truly needs so little,
yeah.
honestly.
So if we check ourselves all the ways that we can give, there will never be this kind of news that these people didn't reach and they don't have nothing to eat. So this idea that I want to indulge, right? And there's sometimes there is this advertising, indulge yourself, they push the people to indulge. Why? Why this kind of marketing? Because eventually the indulging brings economic growth.
Of course.
More you invest and more there is economic growth. But it's not well distributed. Why there are people on the higher levels and the lower levels? Why there is only, there should be just one level? I don't want to see different levels. I want to see one level. Maybe a bit lower and higher, but there is no a large distance, one who have millions and the others who have nothing.
I think that is a utopia that the world has never solved, and I don't think it will be solved, because I think a better word would be respect, because I think as people, we actually choose. Some of us are born into wealth, and some of us are born into poverty. But some of us choose simplicity, and some of us are ambitious to reach higher and higher. Again, these are the huge ideologies which have always divided mankind. The conflict between capitalism and communism.
Yeah.
But I think
they both failed for me.
And because they are ideologies. Because in reality is what you choose from, is what you choose to do, what you choose. It's actually a matter of choice, and of course, and this is the graph of life. So from poverty you go up and you create excess. Then excess comes with its own set of problems, and then you go into lack. This is
what my belief is this: our choices are not actually ours. I believe our choices are based on our foundations, whether it's family, whether it's the tradition, whether it's the environment and the marketing, the advertising, and what we see, the cookies. And it's not actually what we choose, but we are driven to choose that. And that is
the reason behind the marketing, behind consumerism and driving you know, consumerism. But we have to be responsible for our choices as well. I can't say, because I don't eat well, because I am tricked by marketing. It is our responsibility
Yeah,
to
but
get the knowledge.
but Ingrid, you know, there are people who suffer from certain mental and physical issues. Let's say, if you think about drugs, for me, one of the greatest drugs is sugar. So there are people who say, it's okay for me to get a piece of chocolate and that's it. But there are people who are so in craving this sugar that if you give them an amount, they will eat it all. So some of them have a problem that is going on inside them, and it's not easy to just tell them, you know, you need to deal with yourself. Sometimes you need to help them by
Absolutely.
by removing that item, like you are in a detox center example, if you really take drugs like, you know, cocaine or whatever, and they giving you slow doses until you eventually detox. So this is something that it's happening in the normal society, that okay, chocolate is okay, it's not a drug, but eventually it is. And even bread, you know, it's a drug for me as well, for everyone. And this is something that we need to work on as a general practice. But we are just bending the rules and going around with the governmental schemes and whatever. So just to end this, because I really love to speak to you, and but we need to cut in a place. And now we are going into our uh, duration. Uh, I want to end with this today with, how do you foresee agriculture in Malta within the next, let's say, 10 years, taking into consideration the investment happening now in the housing estate?
Listen, agriculture is a challenge in the whole world. It is a huge challenge. In Malta, we need to be even more careful, because unless we are going to seriously look after the farmer and after agriculture, we are losing our food sovereignty. Not that we have it, but at least because we depend heavily on imports, whether it's organic or not. This is the challenge of the world. This is there's huge commercial interest behind this, you know, and the mass production and the abundance, excess, and the lack, because this is what creates food sovereignty and what takes it away from a state. And it is not very bright. It is not very bright because there are a lot of interests. I am not in government and I am not in policy, but we all have to play that little part, that we make conscious choices. Because ultimately, the market will move where there is the demand. And no matter what, we cannot continue to blame the hand of the market, of the marketing, the hand of the government, the hand of the lobby groups, the hand of the multinationals, these are very powerful hands. But it is ultimately the demand and the consumption that matters. And as little as it may be, every single choice does matter, because that single is part of a number of singles that make a whole. And I can only hope that that kind of good will prevail. That is my hope. for my daughter and the rest of our future generations. Excuse me.
Yes. Drink some water. So, wow, it's so beautiful to speak with you, and you know what we are doing here, bringing consciousness. Uh, I think it's one of the most significant or primary things that we should do for those who are ready to speak and for those who are ready to listen. Because everybody now, once this is uploaded and public and went into the world, everybody can listen to it. But would everyone listen to it? Would they take their time to listen because it's like maybe 2 hours? You know, so this is something that I am ready to be conscious and learn from people who are trying to speak like us. Or I want to just live my simple life and doing my full-time job and staying there until maybe I get the pension and maybe I get a life. But what life? What is the future? So for me, my perception of in agriculture in Malta, even though we are trying to bring up awareness, if we continue like this in the housing, especially now that we are using people as capital from other continents, you know, I don't know how it's possible to bring a continent in Malta, but it's incredible that how much capital in terms of housings they need, how much trees and fields they need to cut short. So I think from your perspective, if I look at your website in 10 years, if you will still be here delivering us your produce, I think every produce would be important. Because the people who locally are trying to sustain themselves, they will not sustain them anymore because it would be unsustainable and it would be more efficient in a certain way to import instead of to use the local field as a farmer. Today, if you think about who applies as a farmer, who wants to be a farmer, who owns a field and it remains a field, not a 5-story structure, you know, who wants to not invest in something that costs millions maybe instead of going there in the elements. For who?
No, I refuse to end on this tone,
No?
honestly, because there are a number of conscious people who are making conscious decisions, who appreciate beauty, and who are forming or who are, through these conscious decisions, are creating what I call the new luxury. Because the new luxury now, what you, agriculture, proper food, tasty food, the art of preparing food, this is a new luxury. And the market is small, especially in a reality like ours, but I believe that this is the new luxury. And this is the challenge. But mankind has always risen up to the challenges. And I think nature always wins. I don't think men, unless we develop a respect for nature, I don't think men will win. Nature always wins. Nature has its own ways or her ways, how to win. And I think if we're not careful, we're in for a good defeat. But that to me is very positive, because that is what I hope for our future generations. You know, to go through experiences which bring us back to what really matters in life, you know, which is nature, which is our environment, which is labor which is paid well, tasty food, enough but not wasted, quality. I think we are at a crossroads, not an easy time, but not even our ancestors. I don't think there were easy times ever. I think every time, every era had its own challenges, and we have our own. You know, and after us, there will the people who come, our children will learn from us, so they will not hopefully repeat our mistakes, or they will repeat our mistakes until they are faded out. And then they face new challenges, and they will try new things, and then they will on to new things. I think this is the cycle of life.
It was such a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure is all mine, and we need to do this more often.
Wow, and it serves as a meditation also for us and together, because this is beautiful. The idea was to share, but we also receive, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Wow, wow, beautiful.
Thank you, Elliot. Thank you for this initiative.
So whoever is listening, I will repeat that I am speaking with Ingrid Zerafa, owner of Farmers Deli Malta, eventually who wants to and is interested to buy organic food. She has a very beautiful website. You can go farmersdelimalta.com, right? And eventually
We have a shop as well in San Juan, eh?
yes.
And this is where the conversations happen as well, because there we have a community service where we share recipes, we share what we shared.
Wow, very, very. It's something, you know, when you speak with people like Ingrid, you understand, and almost I want to be part of this. And eventually,
But you are.
I am.
Because you are one to make conscious choices as well.
Yes, yeah, but I want to be more even deeper, you know, and that's why I'm working on another section, which is medicine for me. It's more, instead of nutrition, it's more, it's like a supplement into nutrition. So I'm using essential oils that I can be eventually digested. So I am also into pure and